It's hard to believe that there was once a time when the karting genre didn't exist. Over the past 3 decades, we've seen countless IPs turned into ensemble racing affairs to varying levels of success. From gaming mainstays like Sonic, Crash Bandicoot and Final Fantasy, to more unusual licenses like the Power Rangers, the Muppets and Crazy Frog, there have been hundreds of karting games over the years, all too happy to jam in a bunch of well-loved characters. None of this would have been the case had it not been for the success of Super Mario Kart, which turns 30 years old on the day this video was published. That's 27th of August 2022. The enormous success of Mario Kart led not only to the inevitable sequels, but to the birth of an entirely new genre that continues to see new imitators to this day. To celebrate all things Mario Kart then, we've decided to recap every game in the series, from the main entries to the spin-offs. So buckle up, and 3, 2, hold the accelerator, 1, let's begin. It speaks volumes that many of the core elements of the original Super Mario Kart remain in the series 30 years later. The 50cc, 100cc and 150cc speed settings, which double as AI difficulty levels, the Grand Prix setup with its series of races and points totals, the fact that a green shell goes straight, a red one homes in, a star makes you invincible and increases your speed, a mushroom gives you a speed boost, and of course the fact that smacking your pal in the backside with a shell in battle mode is hugely satisfying. That Nintendo got so much right in its first attempt maybe explains why Super Mario Kart wasn't just a one and done spin-off like Wario's Woods or Yoshi's Safari, and ended up spawning one of the industry's most popular genres. When Nintendo first publicly showed off the Nintendo 64 at the Shishinkai Software Exhibition Show in Japan in 1995, it also revealed some of the games planned for the console's launch. Mario Kart R, which would replace the SNES's Mode 7 courses with fully polygonal ones, ultimately wasn't ready in time for day one, but when it finally released as Mario Kart 64, it proved to be more than worth the wait. Completely replacing the SNES games engine, Mario Kart 64 used a trick that was common in early 3D games. Because the N64 could only handle a certain number of polygons, only the environments were polygonal. The characters meanwhile were pre-rendered CG sprites, similar to Donkey Kong Country, which changed depending on which direction you viewed them from to give the illusion that they were proper 3D. Mario Kart 64 also introduced a number of new ideas that quickly became series mainstays. By waggling the stick while drifting, for example, you could build up a speed boost, a concept that remains to this day, minus the waggle thankfully. Most notable though was the introduction of the notorious blue shell, the most dreaded weapon in the Mario Kart history, and the Great Leveler, which ensured nobody could ever get too good at the game. Originally announced as Mario Kart Advance, this was one of the first games Nintendo revealed to show off the power of its new Game Boy Advance handheld. It worked too. While many assumed the GBA was essentially a handheld SNES, Mario Kart Super Circuit showed it actually had a little bit more power. Instead of a straight SNES port, Super Circuit looked more like a halfway point between Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64, with rotating tracks imitating the Mode 7 trickery of the SNES game, but the character models and features of the N64 one, like the 4-player multiplayer and the blue shells. Most impressive though was the ability to unlock every Super Mario Kart track, doubling the number of courses from 20 to 40. It was a proper wow moment, and the unlocking of retro tracks has become a Mario Kart tradition ever since. Double Dash marked a bold diversion in the series, and not just because of its grammatically unforgivable decision to have 2 exclamation marks in the title. The idea of riding solo was ditched entirely. All karts were now driven by 2 characters at a time, one at the front driving, one at the back throwing weapons. Because of this new mechanic, Nintendo also had to drastically increase the number of playable characters, which up until this point had been a constant 8 in every game. As a result, more than half of Double Dash's roster was made up of debut characters appearing in a Mario Kart game for the first time. Not only that, one of them, Toadette, was making her first appearance in any Mario game at all, seemingly so that Toad could have a partner. Double Dash also introduced a new feature that hasn't been seen since: special items. Each character had their own unique weapon that only they could use, similar to something only AI opponents could do in the SNES original. Mario and Luigi had fireballs, Peach and Daisy could spawn hearts to protect their cart, Donkey and Diddy had a massive banana they could throw, that sort of thing. One other new idea that did stick around though was the addition of different karts you could choose between rather than generic karts for everyone. This increased the possibilities when it came to choosing a setup that best suited your racing style. Finally, the game introduced LAN play, allowing players to connect up to 8 GameCubes locally so that up to 16 players could race. You know, because everyone back in the day knew 7 people who had a GameCube and were happy to carry their CRT TV around. After the two racers concepts split Mario Kart fans, Nintendo decided to dial the crazy back a bit and go back to normal single character karts for its second handheld title. A couple of things did remain though, including the ability to select your kart, as well as the general game engine which continues in a modified form to this day. Mario Kart DS wasn't without its own innovations. It added a couple of new items, the blooper and the bullet bill, which were annoying and fantastic respectively. It also introduced a brilliant mission mode, which gave the player 63 different challenges to play through, from collecting all the coins in one lap, to driving a section backwards within a set time limit, to even taking part in boss battles. Sadly, this mode never caught on and was never seen again. What was though was online multiplayer, which made its debut in Mario Kart DS and quickly became popular, even though the DS's Wi-Fi connection was spottier than a teenager with the measles. In the early 2000s, a groundbreaking deal was struck in which Nintendo, Sega and Namco teamed up to create a new arcade system board called the Triforce. Despite the sales pitch, Triforce was really just a modified version of the GameCube hardware, but the interesting thing about the deal was that Nintendo was allowing its racing franchises to be handled by someone else for the first time. Sega got the nod to work on F-Zero AX and GX, which were released in arcades and on the GameCube respectively. Namco meanwhile was handed the keys to the hallowed Mario Kart license. The result was Mario Kart Arcade GP. This was similar to other Mario Kart games in a number of ways, but very different than others. It offered a ridiculous 93 different types of item, 3 of which were chosen at random for each race. It also took your photo before you raced and added a comedy Mario hat and moustache so other players could see your icon as you overtook them. And when you were done, you could print out a little ticket with your progress on it and insert it into the arcade cabinet the next time to continue. The thing Arcade GP was best known for, however, was introducing the first non-Nintendo guest characters to the series: Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man and the red Pac-Man ghost Blinky. The first Mario Kart Arcade GP was so successful that Namco, now known as Namco Bandai, decided to release a follow-up. Arcade GP 2 wasn't a proper sequel in the true sense of the word. It's better described as an enhanced version of the original which added more of everything. 4 more tracks were added, 2 Yoshi themed ones and 2 stadium themed ones. It also added extra comedy frames for your photo so you could choose to make yourself look like a pirate or a bear. Most notably though, it added 2 more characters, Waluigi and Mamechi. Mahuchi? I'll explain. Namco's merger with toy company Bandai meant it got to use all its licenses too, hence the addition of Mamechi, a character from the Tamagotchi virtual pet craze. Luckily he just raced as it and didn't have to clean up its poo or anything. By the time April 2008 rolled along, it had been nearly 5 years since Double Dash, so console players, many of whom were enjoying Nintendo's resurgence with the Wii, were well and truly jonesing for a new helping of Mario Kart goodness. Imagine the celebrations then when Mario Kart Wii turned up a year and a half into the Wii's life, offering more characters than any Mario game so far. Like the DS version, that included online multiplayer, not just for 4 players this time but up to 12. And it had Funky Kong in it too, which instantly qualifies it as one of the best video games ever created. Mario Kart Wii was also important for another reason. It was the first in the series which really could be played by anyone. Although Mario Kart's relatively simplistic gameplay meant previous entries could be played by most, those who'd never touched a controller in their lives were clearly still at a handicap. With the introduction of motion controls and the plastic Wii wheel accessory that came with the game, Mario Kart Wii was suddenly far more approachable for complete beginners. The result of this was obvious. With 37 million copies sold, it not only became the best-selling Mario Kart game at the time, but the best-selling racing game ever and one of the best-selling games in history. Not even the inclusion of bikes, which are objectively rubbish, could ruin what was arguably the highest point of the series to date. Nintendo knew it was onto a winner with Mario Kart Wii, so its next handheld offering was more of the same, only better. The big new addition this time was the ability to fully customise your kart. Instead of choosing from a bunch of pre-existing vehicles, you could now combine different body, wheel and glider types to create your own. Glider? That's right. Mario Kart 7 added flying sections that kicked in anytime you went off a special blue ramp, and also let players drive underwater for the first time. Mario Kart 7 also added a few new items. The Fire Flower introduced some mild carnage to proceedings by letting you chuck a bunch of fireballs across the tracks, while the Super Leaf gave you a raccoon tail you could use to hit enemies, or, if you timed it right, deflect missiles. The Lucky 7 though was the most ridiculous item of the lot. It granted the player with a mushroom, a banana, a red shell, a green shell, a blooper, a bomb and a star all at once. It was a wee bit much. Not content with having just 2 Mario Kart arcade games, Namco Bandai released a third one in 2013. Mario Kart Arcade GP DX was another improved take on its predecessors, but it did add a couple of new ideas, including one particularly interesting co-op gimmick. 2 players could now race together in a team, helping each other out. If one player picked up a special fusion item, they could trigger it to activate the fusion cart. This teleported their partner over to them and fused both their carts together to form a big massive tank thing. One player could drive it while the other used the wheel to aim its turret and fire missiles. It's a bit like Halo, where one player's driving the Warthog and the other one's manning the gun, except instead of Master Chief it's Mario and Peach. The other additions were more straightforward. Don-chan, the hero from Namco's Taiko no Tatsujin, aka Taiko Drum Master games, made his Mario Kart debut, while even more items were added to bring the total up to a frankly daft 100. Meanwhile, players could choose the alter egos of some characters, meaning the likes of Tanuki Mario, Ice Luigi and Dry Bowser were also added to the game. The Wii U may not have been the success Nintendo had been hoping for, far from it, but it did at least get arguably the best ever Mario Kart at the time. Mario Kart 8 wasn't revolutionary in any way, it just took everything that worked well in the entries before it and crammed it all into one glorious package. It did have some ideas. The addition of anti-gravity racing was a surprisingly subtle but entertaining new trick that made for mind-bending track layouts. The gliding and underwater racing from Mario Kart 7 returned, making their home console debuts, while the bikes from Mario Kart Wii also came back, joined this time by ATVs. It was simply an amalgamation of all the best things from the previous games, and got even better when it became the first Mario Kart game to offer downloadable content. The DLC also threw in crossovers with other Nintendo franchises, bringing the likes of Zelda, Animal Crossing, F-Zero and Excitebike to Mario Kart for the first time. The only thing missing really was high sales figures. High for Mario Kart, I mean, it still sold great for a Wii U game. Maybe if it had been on a more popular system, more people would buy it. There can be little argument that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best Mario Kart game ever made. Technically it's not a new game, this is the first time a Mario Kart title is essentially a special edition of the one that came before it. However, given that Mario Kart 8 didn't reach its full potential because of the system it originally released on, most were willing to give it a second chance at the spotlight on the Switch, one that it's taken with gusto. It's not without improvements. The rendering resolution is now 1080p instead of 720p when played on your TV, and 6 more characters have been added to the roster, including 2 from Splatoon. A proper battle mode was also added to make up for the widely criticised Wii U one, with 8 different arenas to choose from. Earlier this year, 5 years after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was released, Nintendo also kicked things up a notch when it launched the Booster Course Pass, which is in the process of adding another 48 tracks over 6 waves. This means that by the end of 2023 the game's going to have 96 courses, just in case it wasn't already clear that it's the best of the bunch. Nintendo hardly ever dabbles with virtual reality, and in a sense it didn't here either. Like the other Mario Kart Arcade GP titles, this one was mainly handled by Bandai Namco. As the name suggests, it's a virtual reality take on Mario Kart in which up to 4 players compete against each other while wearing a VR headset. Instead of pressing a button to throw weapons, players have to make a throwing motion with their hand, which is registered by a little gizmo they wear on their wrist. With only 1 track and 4 characters to choose from, it's clear that Mario Kart Arcade GP VR is more a one-off gimmick than a bona fide, fully featured Mario Kart game. As pure spectacle, however, it's certainly something that's worth tracking down, even though there are very few units actually out in the wild and you have a good chance of feeling sick after you play it. For the longest time, Nintendo resisted the urge to make the jump to mobile gaming, insisting that its own hardware was the best home for its creations. That all changed in the mid-2010s, when the likes of Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem and New Super Mario Bros. Made the jump, literally in the latter's case, to Android and iOS devices. Mario Kart followed suit in 2019, offering a mobile take on the series that incorporated numerous elements of other mobile games, for better or worse. The new live service structure means players are presented with a regularly rotating series of tracks with a steady stream of characters to try and earn. There are a frankly ridiculous 175 of these characters to date. As a result of this, however, the game has a heavy microtransaction presence, meaning completists who like the idea of having a full roster almost certainly have no chance of achieving this, especially now the game's been out 3 years. Nintendo wasn't the main developer when it came to the virtual reality version of Mario Kart, and the same was the case for the augmented reality take on it. Developed by Velan Studios, which went on to develop Knockout City, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit comes with an actual physical remote-controlled toy kart, driven by either Mario or Luigi. The kart has a camera that sits behind Mario's head. This then sends a video feed to the Switch, allowing players to see what the kart sees from a traditional Mario Kart third-person viewpoint. Players also get to create their own tracks by placing checkpoints on the floor, which the kart's camera can recognise as part of the course. As you race in the game, the real-life car races across your room, scaring the cat and almost certainly getting jammed under the couch. When it all works like it's supposed to, it's an impressively immersive feat, and while it likely won't be seeing a sequel anytime soon, it's another very cool chapter in the Mario Kart series. To date then, Mario Kart Live is still the latest Mario Kart title, and all eyes continue to be trained on Nintendo to see when Mario Kart 9 finally gets announced. With Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's DLC set to continue until the end of next year, we may be waiting a while yet for the next mainline Mario Kart. It's now been 8 years since Mario Kart 8 was released on the Wii U, and while deluxe re-releases, AR and VR spin-offs and mobile takes are keeping us distracted, this is still the longest we've had to wait, by far, for a new main entry. Whenever it happens though, we'll all be waiting, ready as ever to hit the accelerator right after 2.